This time on the BK, I'm one-on-one with a bloke whose dad's friendly advice helped him cast aside his drumsticks and help others pursue their own musical quests. G'day, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the brand Connect. I'm at Jai, and we're coming to you from sunny Sydney, Australia. That's right, Oz, the place that's getting harder to get into, but state by state, we're starting to get somewhere. And this week on the show, I'm with Mr. Gregg Donvovan, GD. How are you, mate?
Hello, I'm doing good. Matty, yourself?
Mate, pretty good. It's been a interesting couple of weeks. You know, we're starting to, we're heading now into the mid-July. We're past the end of the financial year, and we're starting to get a bit of groove on with the year. How's things, man? What's been going on with you?
Well, like with everyone else on the planet, COVID's been going on. I mean, basically speaking, I sell tickets for a living and manage bands. So it's slowed down dramatically for us. I mean, we have a label, so that's still working at, full steam. And we have a management company, which is working probably at 30% of its capacity than it was before, So it's been an interesting time for us to innovate for the future, to think about what's coming. And it's very difficult when you sell tickets and try to pack people into rooms. As soon as you don't do that, it gets too expensive, So it's going to be hard to come back. But obviously, we're all just running forward to next year, to 2021, and hoping that the universe comes together for us and we can get a vaccination and we can get on with life and start selling tickets again. But I guess it's been a time of personal growth for me. It's been, I decided very early on in the process with my business partner, he kind of runs the label, I run the management company. We both work on both very much. That's kind of his responsibility and the touring is mine. So we kind of came to agreement that this was a good opportunity for me to get some downtime after 20 years of working really hard or more. And so I went down the coast to a mate's house down there and lent me his holiday home, me and my partner. And I spent 3 months down there and I worked part-time. I kept my eye on things. I talked to our clients and made sure everyone was understanding it, made sure everyone was financially sorted out. And then I chilled out. I thought, I got to use this. I got to do something different. I got to challenge myself. So I literally started making a list, like learn French, train my dog. What can I do at this time to, move myself forward personally? I saw it as a time to get a little bit selfish, to be honest. Everyone had different circumstances, and I was very lucky enough to financially be able to just go, okay, let's just try and wait this out for a little while. And so I started exercising. I started eating better. I started trying to doing mindfulness walks in the morning and things like that. And it started to really pay off. I lost some weight. I'm feeling really happy. I'm feeling excited to get back to work. I'm having a lot of strategic conversations with people in my industry and my business partner and agents and promoters all over the globe, talking to them all, just trying to get a feel for how all these people we do business with are trying to get back into it. And right now, everyone's just going, we don't know, we're just running at 2021 like it's going to be normal, and we'll work it out when we get there. So that's kind of the music industry or the live industry's thing at the moment. But for me, I took advantage of that time out and still am, and it's been fantastic for me. It's been a good time to look after myself a little bit, and I think that'll help me look after my clients and my friends and family more when we get back into it.
Man, that ability to kick down and work on the personal brand, it's so integral. A lot of people don't get that ever downtime, especially when you work for yourself. I mean, you get on literally, they call it the treadmill, but you get on the obsession mill because, things starting to work and you make your mistakes and you go, God, we got to do that better. I mean,
and you feel responsible. You've got staff. You don't want to stop working. You don't want the heavy thing to fall down. Because you've asked a lot of people to come on this ride with you. You've got clients. It's I've got clients with kids in school fees and mortgages and all these things, and so you feel guilty going on a long holiday. And when I say a long holiday, I'm talking about 14 days. That would be impossible for me to do in the past.
Well, you guys, you're pulling artists from poverty to, princehood or, princesshood, queens, you know what I mean, to write the tracks. You generally in the beginning you come from nothing. So,
yeah.
Suddenly you got an artist at number one in the world or number one in Australia. And the next thing you know, you're thinking the only place for them to go is to go backwards generally. Like it's hard to go number one. That must be an emotional journey yourself that you got to prepare the artist for.
Yeah, I mean, most contemporary music artists have a very similar kind of trajectory, and that's based on, and I'm going to speak in very generalities here because, some acts break through this, some don't. Generally speaking, most acts live in a reality with contemporary music that it's a young person's product, right? So you have these few years, these couple of albums to really, before a ceiling kicks in on you, whether you like it or not. So if you look back at your own life, if you're a music fan, you'll probably find that there was a peak interest time of being fascinated with genres and learning from your friends, and you were hungry for new music. If you're a music fan going, oh, I love that band, what else will I love? I want to go see this. And then mortgages and kids and life and reality kicks in a bit more. And then they have to step back from that kind of interest level. They can't dig as deep into those kind of things because they have different priorities in life. So at that moment, you've hit your first ceiling in your career. That's normally after album 3, album 2, album 3, 5 to 10 years into your career, you're going to start. And that's very difficult for an artist because that 10 years is probably the most exciting 10 years they may ever have as an artist, not necessarily the most financially beneficial, but it's when everybody around them their dream is coming true. You're wonderful. This is great. You're killing it. You're up on stage in front of all these people and it's like the dream's coming true. You're feeling it, right? So it's hard as a human being. I would do the same if I was there to think, oh, this is going to go like this soon. It's going to start coming down. They're just thinking, oh, yeah, every day is positive. Every day everything's good. So we have to try to build them to that moment without freaking them out, and that's a hard thing to do because anybody would get highly anxious in their career if they knew that there was due dates on them, and there is, whether you like it or not. So it's not all bad though, because your fans that you build at that time generally stay with you forever. And then you can bring in new ones. It's just harder to do. Bringing in new fans, you have to be much more strategic about it. I mean, I think Grinspoon, that's the Australian band I've managed for the longest part for me. I mean, it's been, maybe 20 years, 19 years. I mean, I was their tour manager, as you know, before that.
Yeah.
I've been with them a lot more than 20 years. Those guys have very much been through that. If you look at a lot of the Australian bands from that era, The Living End, Spiderbait, these kind of bands, Super Jesus, they've done well and they're still around. But Grinspoon is selling out Hordern Pavilions and Newcastle Entertainment Centre and doing really big headline festivals and big fees. And they got booked for Splendour this year and it's been postponed and they're playing it next year. Not many bands of that ilk from that era are still relevant enough to play Splendour, can still sell 5,000 tickets in Sydney, 3,500 tickets in Newcastle. This band has had that right progression. And it's because they're really smart guys. They knew all this stuff too. We've got an incredibly experienced agent with us, as Owen Orford, who has been through this a lot more than any of us have. So he was a great guide to me and the band as well through it all over the years. We were very lucky that we had those people around us. I've got really good mentors as well. I've got great manager mentors who've been through all this stuff. And they will go, hey, in a year or two, you got this thing coming your way. And you'd be like, no, I don't. I just was number one. And I go, I've got all that. And he's like, no, this is coming your way. You just won 5 ARIAs. So next year, everyone's going to hate you at the ARIAs. You won't even get a nom next year. Get your artist prepared for it. It happens, right? So it's an ebb and flow thing. And if you look at creative people too, they work like a tide. A lot of us do. The tide's out sometimes and the tide's in sometimes. And you just got to, sometimes it's smooth sailing and you got to enjoy it. And sometimes you're up against the rocks. But that's what's happening with the creative mind. It flows in and it flows out. And that's a hard thing to deal with from that long-term perspective because it's very difficult for a creative person to be on a timeline or a schedule.
Well, who's the more anxious artist then? Is it the soloist? Are they the ones that end up being on stage and then next thing you know, they've got a carpal tunnel issue because they've played so much? Their minds, obviously their physicality is not balanced unless they're yogis or swimmers or, all this sort of balance, metaphysical movements. But the solo artists, they must actually get to a point where they turn around and there's no one there. It's like they feel marooned. Yeah. Is that what happens more than bands? Or
I think so very much. I mean, they live in a bubble. In bands, they've got other people to sit around with and try to digest things and talk things through. But then again, some bands are different. You might have someone really toxic in a band and they might be very powerful, have a powerful voice in that band. And, maybe they've got trust issues and other things and they're very strong about not doing things, And that can be worse. It can bring a lot more anxiety to the other people in the band because over time they start seeing that they are losing these opportunities, and they get down there and they see somebody else getting it, and you go, told you we should have done that, and the other person is still stubborn going, no, I don't want to, you know. And if you have those kind of people, I've learned you've just got to move on.
Exodus.
You got to go because you can't help them, you know. So it is really about the band having the right people, the right combination of people. It's like any workplace, right? It is just another bunch of people, and it's about getting that right dynamic of people in there. And Grinspoon have lasted for several reasons. I think the main reason is that we've always had a good strategy. The band's always understood it, and they've always wanted to do this the way we've done it. They wanted to make Grinspoon a legendary brand name in Australia, and there's a way to do that, and there's a way not to do that. And I think if you look at where bands like The Living End and that are right now, you know, I noticed they were playing, I mean, I love The Living End, don't get me wrong, they're friends, and they're a great band. But the night we played the Horden at 5,500 people, they were playing at Soldiers Club down in Bateman's Bay. Now, they could play the Metro up in Sydney, no problem, probably even the Enmore, but they were much bigger than us through that entire period.
Is Ray Harvey still taking care of that?
Not anymore.
Okay, she was amazing, right?
She was amazing, but she only recently left them. So I think it's because Living End, and they have every right to do this, just wanted to keep making new records. See, here's the ugly truth of it. That moment we talked about where people were getting mortgages and baby and the interest came, that's when the artist wants to keep having that moment back here. Oh, listen to this new guy. He's amazing. His work's incredible. Nobody really cares that much anymore because your demographic has to stop caring, right? So the bulk of your thing, so the numbers start showing, so the marketing people are reading numbers and they're seeing all this happening. So the ugly truth is Living End just kept making new records. And no one wanted to hear them.
I think their sound's as good as it always was. Or probably,
and it is,
yeah.
But it's just not as relevant to their people at that time. It's no slight on their artistic skills. It's a reality of what happens to music demographics. It's just what happens. So Grinspoon was smart enough to draw a line in the sand, take 5 years off, and come back with a massive, 20th anniversary of their biggest record ever of Guide to Better Living. We celebrated that. We walked off stage, came back on with an encore with 3 or 4 of their greatest hits, right, that weren't on that record. And then after that heat died down a few months later, we announced a big greatest hits tour. Right, now this is why we're playing those size venues, because there's 3 rules of show business, and the second one is you've got to go away to come back. And that's a rule, that's a fact, and that's related on that demographic turn. Now, there's another good point to
John
this.
Farnham's done it forever, hasn't he?
Right. Now, here's the positive. It comes back again when the mortgages get paid and the kids get out of school. Just look at what's happening for Cold Chisel and Midnight Oil and all those guys. The baby boomer generation is putting so much money into that area. Now, they went offline over here. Mortgages, kids going through school, bam, they're back online. Gen X is just starting to come back online. I just booked a gig for early next year in 2021, so let's really hope it goes on. I won't say the name of the festival. It's not our festival. Promoters doing it. And it's got Grinspoon, UMI, Spider Bay, Living End. I mean, it's that scene. It's going to be awesome. It's a big festival.
It's going to be great.
Yeah.
And also pubescent. There's going to be a lot of young kids there, and there's going to be our grey generation, which is us.
Yeah, so the Gen Xers are coming on too. So the artists need to step back a little, and they need to kind of look at the reality of their industry, not always the dreams in their head. And that right there, you know how you always hear about the conflict of art and business? That right there is where the conflict lies. They don't want to have a schedule and be involved because all that stuff's irrelevant to their art. Their art comes to them in a different way. I have to deal with the coalface of reality for them because my job is to deliver the vision for the artist, the one they have for themselves. Their job is to fuck shit up. They're an artist. They want to do that. They want to break things. They want to go, I don't want to be with a label. I want to be independent. I want to do it differently to everybody else. I want the music to speak for itself. I want it to do all these things. That's what they're supposed to do. They're an artist. They're supposed to make the world better and move us all forward and push us. So you need good business people around them that know, okay, I need to indulge this. It's important. Bruce Springsteen said on that 20 Feet from Stardom documentary, sometimes we just need to be indulged. And he's right. They do. And so we need to know how to indulge that and keep them safe and keep them reasonable at the same time. So we need to be able to find that line. So if you get a manager that's hot-headed, no, you just have to be here, do this, you have to do that interview. And the artist is saying, I don't like that interviewer, I don't like their I think they're a little bit chauvinistic, or I think they're a little bit this. I don't like their vibe. I'm moving into this world. These are the people I want to be part of. That's what we should be. I mean, it's
That's
all
my
about
tribe.
cultures.
That's my fucking tribe, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, it was funny because I remember chatting to Trujillo, Robert, you know, from Metallica,
Yeah.
and he said to me, man, you can be in entertainment all you want. And I was like, great. And he goes, but it's not show business.
Yeah.
Because it's like show and business. That's what it is. It's not entertainment. Entertainment is fun, but show business is the real deal, right?
Yeah. It's not show friends.
Yeah. So obviously things have changed a lot. And you've got things like The Voice that are, you know, pretty, you know, sort of, they're massive staples to the household. You know, people are watching telly and you got...
I just see that as a drama, reality TV drama. It has very little to do with music.
Yeah, well, you look at the 4 artists on there and not, you know, knocking any of them, but I can't really recall one of Delta Goodrum's hits. I couldn't put my hand up and say, you know what, I really know Kelly Rowland's music. You know?
Well, I think it's a great experience for all the singers and contestants that go on these shows. But as somebody who signs and develops talent, I keep saying to people, friends come to me all the time and go, oh, you should hear her sing. I go, do you know how many people can sing well? I don't need singers. I like singers. I don't care if you can sing perfect. I don't give a shit. What's your idea? What are you going to write? What are you going to look like while you're doing it? What have you got to say for yourself artistically? That's the first question. I don't give a crap about how you sing. If you cared about that, we wouldn't have Bob Dylan. We wouldn't have so many of the great artists on the planet. So this show is making, not a mistake, because they know they're not making a mistake. They know they're making a drama show. They're not idiots, you know. They don't care about the music that much. So it's just the reality of it. Singers aren't artists, you know. It's just, and I think other people find that really hard. They don't really understand it. But it's like, I know millions of singers. I've only met a handful of artists in my whole life. I'm looking for artists. I'm not looking for singers.
It's a huge compliment, you know, to the roster that you have, because, I mean, you look at, say, Airborne. You know, I'm there in Austria for a couple of years, and this guy comes into this pub I was actually, you know, doing a bit of work in. Shouldn't have been doing work in the pub, but I was. And it was a mate's pub, so it was mates' rates, you know. But as things pan out, he goes, oh, man, Australian band, Airborne, they're like AC/DC. And I was like, yeah, stand up for rock and roll if you know what's good for you. You know what I mean?
It.
Man, they've absolutely had one heck of a ride.
Oh,
and
yeah,
obviously,
still going.
The forefathers, Yakka Dakka boys, you know, much respect, much love.
Absolutely.
But Airborne, man, has that been one of the greatest sort of unfound rides that you found? Or
Absolutely. I've absolutely loved it, because it was something a lot of people around me told me not to do at the time, and I had a really strong instinct for it. I grew up loving bombastic rock and roll in the 80s, you know, big stadium rock with lots of hair and light shows, and David Lee Roth doing scissor kicks in the air while he's singing, and Led Zeppelin, and I enjoyed all of that. You know, that was fun for me. And I was excited by it when I was young. And it was the 80s. And then when I got into the 90s and was in the business and started coming from being a young promoter in Canberra, and all of a sudden I'm tour managing cool bands from America. And the first band I tour managed was Fugazi in the 90s. You know, one of the coolest, seminal, independent punk rock bands on the planet. And I loved them. I really did. And I got this whole new culture of indie music, you know, Pavement and all of this stuff. You know, Nirvana changed everything for our generation. And what happened there. But I think what came after all of that was a lot of shoegazing. There was a lot of like, I'm not talking to the media. I'm not going to get up on stage and show off. Let the music speak for itself. There was a reaction, like there always is with humans, against the bombastic, big hair stuff of the 80s. It went against it. My feeling was it went too far. I was at a point in my career where I was going, I'm sick of all these shoegazing indie bands. I want something, bring some life back on the stage. That's all I wanted. I wasn't trying to find a band to discover and break things and make money. We were doing okay. I just wanted a band that was going to be a bit more bombastic. And I was having this speech, drunk at 2 a.m., believe it or not, in Austin, Texas, with somebody, with a bunch of Australians. We're at South by Southwest conference. And this Melbourne lady called Mary Michalakis, who's she's a journalist, DJ, you know, music entrepreneur. She's an incredible woman down in Melbourne and been very involved in the scene forever. So every time she mentioned a name, I would pay attention, right? She knew what she was doing. And I was having this speech and she just literally laughed, said, you have to go check out Airborne. Airborne with a U, like Melbourne. And I was like, really? She goes, I like AC/DC, but they're so young, I reckon you could get them in the right place. I was like, hell yeah. I went back to the hotel room drunk. I'm like typing in, and they had a website, because back then you couldn't, you know, you weren't streaming music on your site. There was nothing to listen to. There was a photograph of them and bullet like bullet hole buttons. It was the shittest website. I just saw this photo and I was just like, I want this band. There was a contact me thing and I got on there and I said, hi, my name's Gregg Donvovan. Sorry to be emailing you in the middle of the night, but I'm in Texas at the moment. I just heard about you guys. I want to hear some music. Can you let me know when you're playing live next? I woke up the next morning. Here's this email back from the boys like, oh, g'day, mate. We love Grinspoon, blah, 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 blah. We're playing down at the Pony in 2 days. I'm like, well, I'm about to get on my flight. In a few hours, I'll be there. I landed in Sydney. I went across to the domestic terminal and I said, get me a ticket down to Melbourne. I got down there later that day. I went and had a nap and I went and watched them at the Pony Club that night with 2 girls from the Spazzies were up front and Gerard from Premier and Agent was there. So there was like nobody but us 4, And I was standing there with, my best friend JT was with me. I'm standing there with a beer and literally they came on stage and I dropped the beer. No exaggeration. I dropped it and my mate had to go. I'm like, whoa. It's the only time in my career I went backstage and went, hey, I'm Greg. I manage Grinspoon and other bands and I'd love to have a talk to you guys. And, I've never done that before. I've always played
Massive
it cool.
watershed moment for you then, like for you to go from hearing about it in Austin, Texas and at that music conference, there's nothing bigger in the world than that.
No.
To seeing a website.
I had to come home to find it.
A website that's like a flyer.
Yeah.
And next thing you're dropping the gold nail.
Yeah. And you know what, to everyone around me when I started showing the demos, remember the song Ready to Rock you mentioned before? I was playing that song to a bunch of people, taking it around to different label and stuff, and people literally go, Greg, what are you doing? What are you doing? Because this was indie shoegazer time, right? So they're literally saying, Greg, man, you're like 8 years, 10 years too late. What are you thinking? And I'm going, I'm thinking this is great and there's plenty of people out there that's going to agree. And so once we found our tribe, like the Roadrunners of the world in America and people like that, the labels, we had a bidding war on the band. So once the hard rock community found out about them, we had a bidding war out of America. There wasn't enough interest out of Australia. So we signed them directly out of New York to Roadrunner Records. We got down to the business of trying to break the UK, Europe and North America first. North America's been tough. We have absolutely killed it in Europe. We played massive shows over there. We've toured with Iron Maiden. We've played with the Rolling Stones. We're touring with Iron Maiden next year, hopefully again. We play main stage on some of the biggest festivals across the country. And we're doing Brixton Academy next year on our own, headlining in London and shows like that all over the place. So they are an absolute huge success story. Barely anybody knows about them. And they're just a bunch of awesome fucking rockers from Warrnambool.
I tell you, I'm putting myself down for a ticket one day to see them.
I'm working on something for Australia early next year, mate. So if COVID lets us, we're going to have them on stage next year in Australia.
Man, they seem like fun. Because at the end of the day, I mean, you need that strategy that, you mentioned earlier, and strategy is the greatest pinnacle for you to find a foundation and to actually go after your mission statement.
Yeah.
But, the fun's the biggest sort of asset to have in life because you're going to die, right? Like at the end of the day, you're not going to be here forever,
And this goes back to the thing we were talking about with the voice and stuff like that is these people had a very strong vision about where they wanted to be and how they were going to do it. Really strong. When I signed Josh Pike, completely separate to Airborne. Indie, mellow, guitarist, folk, incredibly talented, thoughtful artist. Absolutely knew where he wanted to go, how he wanted to sound, and who he wanted to end up being. And he's gone about doing that. And I love working with Josh. I love working with Airborne. I love these bands that know exactly where they want to go. They've got a vision for themselves, and it's my job to deliver it. There's nothing worse than having an artist in front of me going, I just want to be successful. And I'm going, okay, but I'm not talented. I can't sing for you, and I can't tell you how to look cool. I can't tell you how to have all those things that artists, it's not what I do, man. Don't look at me for that stuff, And I think artists naturally have that understanding or don't. And the ones that do are the ones I'm looking out for. And when I go and see a band like Airborne and it's super clear that they know exactly who they are and where they're going, it's hard not to go, well, I don't care what the world's doing right now. I have to look at this. These people are authentic.
Well, that personal brand, I talk about a little bit on the show, but the personal brand aspect is everything. It's a make or break because, some people may not get you or they may not like you and then your personal brand doesn't shift and you just get left behind, Someone who I think probably Australia really loves and has a wonderful personal brand from what I've seen, the way she presents herself, the way she sings, the way she performs, the way she even releases her music is Amy Shark. Has she been an incredible artist to work with?
Oh, absolutely. Amy's been brilliant. I've been very lucky with Amy as well because, she's signed to our label, not our management company. But I did help out Shane, her manager, last year on the album tour. I did a bit of work on that with them. Was involved in signing Amy from day one with Stu, with my business partner. He's the guy who discovered her, for lack of a better term. And we signed her to the label, and Stu went about making music with her. And her and Stu have this incredibly good relationship. Her, Stu, and her husband Shane, who's also quite involved. He's the manager, and he should be. He's not like, one of those, oh God, the husband's managing. It's like, he is a great, he really knows what he's doing, So, and it looks like I'm working on the tour next year for this album that's just come out too. So, and we work on the record extensively. But what I love about working with Amy is that she's a no bullshit Queensland girl who likes to have a beer and go fishing. And so I can relate to her. She knows exactly what she wants. She wants to be big. She wants to make people happy, and she wants to write hits. Love her. Great.
Great mission. Great mission.
Great mission. She wants to be herself. She wants to be big artist, and she wants to write hits, and she wants to keep growing.
And she's doing it, right?
And she's doing it. She's killing it, So, the Amy's been a great thing. And like I said, she's no bullshit.
Is that her real name?
Amy Shark? No, her real name's Amy Billings, which is her husband's surname, Shane Billings.
Lucky it's not Pete Billings, right?
There you go. Actually,
Bill, we love you.
Shane actually was this COO for the Titans up on the Gold Coast.
Okay.
Yeah, he's a sharp dude, like he was the financial guy doing all the deals with, Jared Haynes and those kind of guys. And
awesome.
He nutted out all those deals and did a lot of Moneyball stuff for the club, working out who to get and all that sort of thing. So he's got a very analytical mind and a good money mind too.
Well, that goes back to the show business thing. I mean, Billings, you're just going to get a receipt, but Shark, you're going to get someone who's going to attack, right?
Yeah. It's a great name. Well, Amy tried for a lot of years. She sent a lot of music to a lot of companies. I Said Hi, Tell Them All I Said Hi, that song. That song is about the industry. That's about her 10 years or so of sending music to them or whatever. So that's her like, tell them all I said hi. That's her big piss off to the music industry because nobody paid attention, Thank God we did. We got away with that. But she got turned down by a lot of people, And so when she came back and had a bit of a new lease on life, and Shade had kind of encouraged her to take another swing, and she wrote a door, and they changed the name for, to try to be fresher and newer and not have, I'm sure I've heard this woman before, So she sent those out, and Stu was one of the people on the list. And
it's easier than getting remarried, isn't it? Because she could have found another dude and got rid of Billings. And...
Yeah. That's right. And she's from the Gold Coast. Shark. It was a good, So yeah, I mean, it's a great project. It's fantastic for me because it's financially working really well. And I don't have to do huge amounts of work on it because my business partner, Stu, carries the weight for Amy. I carry the weight for the touring, for all the acts we manage, but he carries a lot of the weight on the label front. And we share the responsibilities, but, he needs the credit for Amy Shark when you really drill down on it. And for me, it's been an absolute pleasure hanging around the edges, enjoying it all and helping Shane out with the touring stuff because he's busy doing overseas things for her. And we've got RCA absolutely ramped up for her in America now. So, the big boss, they've got a really great American manager now, Will Botwin, is the head of Red Light, they do...
Watch out.
Yeah, they're one of the biggest management firms in America. So Amy's got one of the biggest guns in America in her pocket now, and they just got that deal done a few months ago, and the record's about to come out there and the label sign up. So it could be our first crack at breaking the American market in a real way. It's such a hard market, who knows, but we're giving it a red hot crack and we've got the finances to do it. And that's a really hard place to get to in itself.
Well, a lot of people start out this journey of, artism or being an artist, and some are just, born, with super talent that get discovered easy. But it's changed so much if you want to get your brand out there. The dollar value of yourself is so important for your personal brand, and then the product you produce is everything.
Yeah.
Because if your product is not on brand with market, as you were saying, if you're too old and you don't fit the category, it might sound sad, but it doesn't matter how good your voice is, but people already look at you at that where were you scenario.
Yeah.
And then the company itself, the company you keep, it's so down to the fundamentals of the trust, know and like, because
Yep.
you look at Guy Sebastian's just been in some legal dispute with his former manager. And
Yeah, it's crazy, that stuff. I mean, I have no idea of the scenario that's going on there, and sometimes it's just confusion. It's just artists going, but I thought no, that was in your deal you signed originally, But I'm not saying that's what happened to Guy. I don't know the dude. I've met him a couple of times. Nice dude, I'm sure. they've got something legitimate going on there. But yeah, I mean, that side of it is really crap when it goes wrong. That's why they've got to have good people around them and good people that are experienced to know what to do.
A team, right? A great team.
A great team. And,
transparency, is that your currency? Is that where it all comes down to?
Yeah. Direct transparency, which is why it has to start from what is your vision you have for yourself. Because we've all got a baseline. Oh, hang on, you want to do this thing. We don't want you to do that thing. How does that relate to what you want? You just want this personally, don't you? And you can tell they just, it's a trip to Bali. I get a trip to Bali and I can take my girlfriend or my boyfriend with me. And it's like, yeah, but no one's getting paid. I don't get paid. You don't get paid. You're just getting a free trip to Bali and you've got to play a gig over there. It's like, how does this help that? No, stay here and work on this. This is what we're doing. So you can get them to focus, to drill down on their career, stop taking all the pretty shiny things that come along that are a bit of time wasting and can actually be the easy road out, if that makes sense. But you touched on it before when you talked about it's your friends and your alignments. I think in music, technology has always changed industry, right? And if you look back at my lifetime, it's very much, been porn, music, and then everybody else follows, right? We all do it first. We follow. Porn always does it first because they're well-funded. They can do stuff quietly, and they've, first people to embrace online. And then music goes, RedTube is Spotify, right? Pornhub is Spotify. It's basically what they are. They're these freemium versions into the other ones. That's where all this came from. So you've got this thing that's happening now where alignment is more important than it ever was before. We had a monoculture of media before where you'd be on the TV or the radio. It was like, from a marketer's point of view, it was like a kill shot. Put the customer on their knees, back of the head, tap, tap, see you later, I got you. Big marketing campaign, I'm done.
You don't need a shotgun, do you?
Doesn't work anymore, man. You can't do it. You've got to do death by 1,000 cuts. You've got to be a really smart assassin. You've got to wear a burqa and you've got to run through 20 back streets and stab 1 million people 1 million times, and then you come out the other end and go, look, I won. It's a kill shot versus death by 1,000 cuts now. So what that means about your alliances is that everything is happening in a bubble. Our biggest bands are bands we've barely talked about. I mean, we did talk about Airborne a bit. They're huge and they very much exist in their hard rock bubble. The Paper Kites, this is a band I wanted to mention today. They're one of the bands we've had for a long time. I think, we've been joking in the office, call them the quieter achievers of the Australian music industry.
BHP, right?
Man, go and have a look at their Spotify numbers. 2 million a week. These kids are pulling in about $10,000 to $15,000 every 4 weeks from Spotify alone. And their touring sells out theatres and everything. And they play this incredibly quiet, beautiful, introspective indie music. And the people who come...
Of this generation,
the people who come are smart uni kids and, lots of females.
Very musicality, like incredible.
Lots of musicality, very, very talented guys, but they're very quiet and calm. You give them to a radio guy, they'd look at you and go, I can't play this on the radio. Are you nuts? And they don't have any hits, but they are hugely popular. They sit in their bubble. They've found their lane, and the whole trick is never getting out of your lane for the wrong reason. You can get out of your lane, but make sure it looks smart. Make sure it's Run DMC and Aerosmith you're putting in that room. Don't be doing anything, like, I don't know. I can't think of a bad other one, but there's been plenty of bad connections, right? So I think that right now, not only is it important to be in your bubble because that's the way marketing works, but it's also reach now. That is your marketing reach now, because connecting with your people, with your tribe, is how you reach out to the others. So obviously, Paper Kites, touring with, City and Colour over in America, a similar kind of band, much bigger than them. We go over there. Great leg up, whole bunch of new fans. So sticking in your tunnel, trying to get reach from other people in your community. In other words, give to them and hope they give back and create a community that helps each other and reaches out. And that's the new way of marketing. That's the death by 1,000 cuts version. It's not the kill shot anymore. So for me, that brand alignment and that association of things is paramount to every band. And let's be clear, because what we're talking about here, when I talk about bands, I am talking about a brand. That's my job. I don't do it very often because it sounds ugly when it comes to art and musicians.
It's the truth though, right?
Well, behind closed doors, that's all we do, because that's what's actually really happening.
If the names are matchboxes, unless you're Matchbox 20,
right? I mean, I know artists don't like to hear those names. It feels like it cheapens their art, and they don't want to be, like when artists are around, I will use words like exploit, but only in the way I understand what they mean, not what they do. I know exploit is a legal term for making money off their product. It's not me exploiting them. But I might say that word and then they'll freak out for 6 months. They'll be going, yeah, but that exploit thing. I go, man, I said I'm going to spend some time trying to exploit your songs.
Yeah.
Like
show business, right?
That's what we do. We go out there and try and get them on an ad and a TV and a movie. But why would you exploit them? Like, that's what I'm doing. Like, they think that word means something negative.
Yeah.
So you have to choose your words wisely. You have to care about the art and understand it. That's important. And you have to understand the business side of it too, which is really strange. But finding people in your laneway, that's the new game.
Who's the best sort of new talent that you've seen anywhere on the planet?
Flower Kid.
Yeah, right.
Hands down, Flower Kid. We just signed him for management. He's got 2 songs on Spotify right now. There's one up there called Boy with the Windfields. He's 17. He's about to turn 18. Warner Music, this guy called Marcus, who was the playlist kid at Spotify. He really switched on guy and he very quickly got headhunted by Warner Music. First thing he signed is this Flower Kid and he bought it to us because we know him. Actually, he bought it to a few managers.
Killer name, by the way.
Flower Kid, man. He is unbelievable talent. He's incredible. And his story, and I'm going to let him tell it, not me, because he's going to tell it. His story is amazing. I mean, it's amazing. And he's been writing about it and he's going to tell the whole story and he's going to do it all. And this Flower Kid is amazing. And the songs we've got coming up, we're about to release. So Warner Music, straight away overseas, we got interest. I'm getting emails all over the planet from agents that are hearing about him because you hear that one song on Spotify now, Boy with the Windfields, you go, wow, it's a beautiful song. But until you meet him and see him, you're like, whoa, okay, I get it now.
Where's he from?
Sydney.
Awesome.
Sydney kid.
Epic.
But his story, like I said, he's got a story and he needs to be the one to tell it. It's not a kind of story I should be telling. But it's fascinating and his songwriting, the stuff people haven't heard yet, the stuff we've got in the vault ready to start coming out that he's working on now, it's scary good. So Flower Kid is what that's the thing we're really wanting to break and that's what we're taking from nothing to something at the moment. We're hoping to anyway.
What
I'm
journey.
super excited about this one.
Mate, I haven't seen you this excited since, we got on a little personal flight up there in northwest WA. I mean,
that one.
With Phil Jamo trying to hold the airsick bag, whilst he's got a long neck in the other hand.
Yeah, and the pilot going, anyone want to have a go? And I'm going, no, don't let the band up there. And Chris O gets up there. He's like, you're letting the drummer fly the plane? What are you doing? And I'm just like sitting in the back. And I remember him, I think we were going over to Port Lincoln or something at some point, and I was like, what are they down there over the ocean when we were going across? And he was like, oh, they're the big tuna nets, remember? And I was like, they are? They keep tuna there. He goes, yeah, they're like tuna farms. And he's like, woo, and just dives down there. I'm like, whoa. My favourite one with that pilot was, I can't remember if it was Geraldton or whatever.
Oh, that was wild, that concert.
Oh, yeah. That's a story in its own, being kicked out by the coffin cheaters, right? But I remember in the morning, I'd drive down to the airfields really early to make sure the pilot was all set. And then I'd drive back to the motels or everywhere, pick all you guys up, and then go back and make sure the pilot was good to go. Right. And the night before in Geraldton, remember the pilot got on it? And he was like hanging out. So I was a bit worried about him, right? So I went down there and I was like...
I think that might have been Jay. Jay might have corrupted him.
Yeah, I think Jay did. Yeah, American sound guy. And I went down there and he's leaning, I'm going over and I'm thinking he's reading something on the chair. He's leaning up against the plane with one hand on the outside of it like this. And he's got one hand here and I come around and go, you all right? And he's like, pulls off the oxygen mask and he goes, tries to talk and vomits all over the ground. And he's just like, 1 minute he's on the mask. I'm like, maybe we should put the flight off for an hour or two, buddy. He's like, no. Give me 10 minutes. I was just like, all right, Outback pilots, buddy. All right, that's our plane. I'll go get the boys. Drink some water, man.
We're making history.
Yeah, we got a show to do. Get it together, buddy.
Oh.
So that was great. That was pretty funny. Those kind of tours are really interesting because, as much as I love touring, when I was tour manager, I might have come home and complained. I remember coming home and complaining to a friend once, like, oh, God, fucking Paris, everything. I'm so glad to be back. And he was like, oh, Paris, glad to be back. And he gave me a big talking to, like, hey, you get to go to Paris. I was here doing the same old. And I said to him, look, sorry, I know that sounds like a shit thing to say, but the truth is this. Every city I went to on that tour, I got out of an airport, normally at night, because we're travelling the day after a show. Some driver drives us past the DFO outlet. We check into a hotel that looks like the same. I could be in Melbourne or Berlin. It doesn't matter. You know, a driver comes and picks us up and takes us to a venue that smells like the same venues all over the world and has the same sticky carpet. And then we work till late. And then we drink in our hotel room with men only. And then we wake up in the morning and we drive back to the airport. And my driver goes, "Oh, look, the Eiffel Tower." And I go, "Where?" And he goes, "Oh, you missed it." Okay, thanks. Paris. That's Paris. So that's what I mean by touring can be something that people think it's not when you start losing your mind a bit when you're out there, because it's like, "Oh, I'm here and I want to go do all these things." Like, you can't do that. You've got interviews. So you imagine these artists who are like loving life and I'm going to Europe and they plan all these things for their first time. You're going, no, you're not. Oh, no, you'll be on a schedule.
It's not some YouTube vacation video, is it?
No, and there's like 5 of you. So the cost of staying somewhere for hours is real. You can't do that. You've got to move on and work, work, come home. So I always say to the artist, you want to do shit in Europe, you fly over early on your own dime. You've got a ticket there as part of the tour, but all that cost before or after is yours. You're not doing shit on the tour. You can't. So it's you get the odd day off, but you don't really get to do much on tour. It's a wanderlust thing. So that's very much why I wanted to get off tour. And I think all of my good memories are those kind of tours, the Grinspoon ones out in the bush, out in Geraldton to miners and getting on planes with
The
dodgy
chapel.
pilots and the chapel. Yeah, you know, oh yeah. God, that's a memory I don't want to have. You know, there's just that stuff is really good. And, you know, Grinspoon created a lot of those memories for me. Grinspoon's the band I've spent more time on the road with than any band in the world. And as you know, I've been an assistant to Eddie Vedder. I've tour managed Mars Volta and Muse and Ricky Martin and Shania Twain. And I've done a lot of stuff with a lot of artists around the world. And I feel at home with Grinspoon. It's like I'm out with my family when I'm out with Grinspoon. And when I'm out with other people, I miss them. I miss those guys, you know, and the crew and that kind of stuff. It's like, I feel more comfortable there. When we were on the Greatest Hits tour, it was my favourite tour in the whole world because it was a big tour and I wasn't the tour manager. That room was mine. That was my room, you know, and the tour managers worked with me. The band was, you know, me and the band owned that room. We had that room and we would take it on. And it felt really good, you know, because it was Grinspoon. Because it's been my room plenty of times for plenty of people, but it just feels good when it's Grinspoon. It feels right, you know.
It's a funny thing. People don't understand the business model behind, you know, 10 guys sitting down for 10 minutes and talking. You know, when you start thinking about the hourly on all that, you know, you start thinking, well, we kind of lost 3 hours of productivity in that 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And, you know, when you've got you're paying for a venue and you've got everyone bumping in, bumping out, sound checking the drivers, there's one call that's, you know, everyone comes there early. The amount of stress that must cause and the cash burn it must cause for someone like yourself, at the end of the day, that can delay the whole evening going forward, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, everything's, you know, when you're working on a schedule that's, you know, doors are going to open at 7 o'clock and the curfew's midnight and we're putting on 3 bands in between then, whether you like it or not. People have bought the tickets and the room's sold out. So there's this drop dead reality to it all where you kind of got to do what you got when you get there, you know. So if the guitar doesn't work, you're kicking the floorboards with your foot and singing out loud. You know, like I've been at gigs where the PA dropped out on full bands and the band down instruments and get a sing-along going with the crowd. You know, it's like, it's...
Personal experience. Can't buy that on the internet, right?
You can't. And, you know, this whole thing about internet gigs during the COVID time and really annoyed the hell out of me, to be honest. I mean, I know a lot of people have been really positive and trying to move forward, but they've been acting like internet gigs are new. So everyone's like, but now we're not doing COVID, so we can do them online. I keep going, you know, they're not shows. They're recordings of shows. Like, no, we're going to do them live on the internet. I mean, that's a recording of a show. Doesn't matter whether it's live. It's a recording of a show being put out. It's not a live show. So we'll do your show as long as it's not called a show, a live show. It is a live recording going out on the internet.
A moment in time.
It's a moment in time. And it is what it is. And that's cool. But remember, we've been giving this to them for free forever. This is just content to keep them happy. So why the hell are we going to get them to pay $25 or $35 for a ticket for an hour for a watered down experience with no real emotional attachment to it, no real connection to the artist? It's not a live show. It's content. It's just recorded content. So I've got to be in my bonnet with what people call it. And I know from looking at the drop-off numbers that it's never very good, right? You do an online gig, people buy tickets or sign up for it, and the drop-off's pretty quick. And I think that's because a lot of people go, oh, I love Grinspoon or whoever, I'm going to buy 20. And then I've seen them twice live. I love them. It's going to make me feel good again. And they get on there and they go, this doesn't feel like when I went to see them. Of course it doesn't. That was a live gig. You're in a
looking
room
at
with
a
energy.
monitor, yeah.
And now you're looking at your iPad and
Or your
it's a
phone.
recording. It's not a show. So that's something I've been trying to shut down over this period, because a lot of people during the COVID period have just had a lot of anxiety and they just want to do things for the sake of doing it. So we've had to have a lot of conversations about, why are we doing things? Are we just doing them to do something? You know, sometimes the answer is just do nothing. You know, in life, that's the answer sometimes. And nobody wants to hear that.
It's a good thing, isn't it? Like, actually, as you said, down tools, you know, COVID's been a great example of that. Do nothing, find what you want to do and punch in on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, like actually do the stuff that, you know, is important to you. Well, Dono, this time of the show, I like to sort of throw a bit of a shout out to people. I'll go down first, this camera, and I'd like to say, I'd like to throw a shout out to the people that helped me meet Gregg Donvovan back in the day, and one of them is actually Justin Van Strom. He Strom, yeah, he managed Grinners back in the day, and whilst he
and Def Effects as well.
Yeah, whilst he's no longer managing him now, I mean, he gave me an opportunity to sort of, through the relationships that I built with the band, to spend time with the boys. That led to me meeting you, and without that, it wouldn't have happened. And also to Christian Hopes, the drummer of Greenspoon. Mate, you've given me a lifelong friendship, but also to the ability to have a bit of a incredible journey watching you guys do what you do.
That's only because you're both Manly fans, though.
Yeah, exactly. But I became a better filmmaker. I remember making a film and then working with a guy called Taj Burrow and showed him 66.6, the documentary, and he goes, wow, the editing's unbelievable. And because I think it was you, actually, who actually said to me at a big show in town, when Silverchair was headlining, Grinners were supporting him, you said, the snare's everything. If you're not on the snare, don't do the edit. With this thing, Matt. And you were TMing. I was like, whoa, okay, this dude's got it all rocking.
Yeah. That's it. Is that nothing annoys a musician or somebody worse with an edit where they hit the snare and it's a tom sound or a cymbal sound, or it's just like, it just drives us nuts. And people talk about it all the time. I always tell editors that all the time. So that would have been me. I've said that to a lot of people.
Well, it's still stuck with me to this day.
You know, John Watson's been a great help to me. He's a manager. He managed Silverchair. He's been involved in the Cold Chisel and Midnight Oil comebacks and everything like that. He's been a great source of help to me. And Michael McMartin's another manager. He's a Hoodoo Guru's manager, still is to this day. Manages Charles Fisher, the producer who did Savage Garden. He is the gentleman of Australian management. And the three of us and some other people are the founding members of the AAM, the Association of Australian Managers. You know, they're probably the business people who have, you know, really been there for me. Stuart McQueen's the most important person in my business life. Stu, full respect, brother. He's the guy who has turned Wonderlick in from being this little kind of touring hub management company focused on long-term career artists and knowing how to tour them and sell merchandise to becoming a fully fledged entertainment business. You know, we've got recording companies, joint ventures with Sony, publishing company, joint ventures with Sony and Sony ATV. We've got our management company. We've got great staff. We've got business management people now. You know, so Stu's been incredibly important to helping, you know, in a way, Stu's managed me through this. You know, he's taken my vision and delivered it. So he's really important to me and to my life and the business and everything that goes on. But, you know, most importantly and always, and I'm not just saying this, but it's the artists. You know, like none of us would be here without them. Yeah, it's hard to work with them sometimes, but I like that. I like to struggle with things. I think that's...
Makes you a better person, right?
Right. No struggle, no progress.
Yeah.
You know, that's how it goes. So I like artists that struggle with things. I like working with the artists because they want to make the world better. They want to make things sound better. And without it sounding cheesy, I truly believe in these times where we are in the culture wars, as we all know. And in these times, I think music is the only language that can explain well enough to all of us how we're all in this together. I think it's the only language.
Damn straight. My wife is playing some of her music the other day. She's a former concert pianist, you know, on the Baby Grand. You know, we've got the middle piano in the Grand series. And what she played the first time I ever heard it at this performance, tears welled up my eyes. I was like, wow.
You know Deepak Chopra?
Yeah.
That guy, he did a talk about this that I found really fascinating. I guess you can find it on the internet. Years ago I saw it. And he was talking about how, we're all made of atoms and we're all just little bits of string, right? All bounced around. So it's just vibrations. Like scientifically, that's what's happening. Just atoms vibrating and
Acoustic
then we get
movement within
formed and blah,
ourselves.
blah.
Yeah.
So he was saying that's the technical scientific reality of music. It's the only language good enough to describe a mountain that we can all understand. It's the only language good enough to describe love that we can all understand. Like you can say love in French and maybe it sounds more loving than in Australian, but music is the only language that we can all understand love, even without lyrics.
There's a lot of love in music.
And sadness.
Yeah.
So those vibrations in air, as Josh sings and talks about all the time, they're really important, without sounding like I'm on acid or something. That's a scientific reality. The vibrations in air, they make us feel good. They make us happy. They make us sad. They make us, that's why singers don't like talking about what their lyrics mean. They know they mean something different to everybody. They mean whatever you want them to mean. Just relate it to you.
Well, they say there's black at the start and black at the end of life, and in between there's a lot of colour.
Yeah.
So that music is certainly going to add to the emotive feelings that we're feeling. And, if you think about psychology, one of the greatest things that I learned, off the company I work with, Friends Resilience, fantastic people, take care of clinical anxiety for kids and families. But one of the greatest things that they taught me there is all feelings are okay. Anger, it's perfect to be able to be angry.
It's what
to
you
have
do
that
with it.
red thought. Yes, turn that into a green thought and go, that's the positive that's going to come out of it, because somehow that roadblock I was feeling, like at one stage you were a musician, right? You were a drummer.
Mm-hmm. Not a very good one, but yeah.
But it must have pissed you off probably at a point when you had tension in the band or when you gave it away and you're like, should I really be continuing my path?
Yeah, it was a hard moment, yeah.
Yeah, and that was an emotion with that, right?
Yeah, very much so.
What happened there?
Well, I mean, I was in a time of my life where I was being encouraged to decide what I was going to do with my life, to make a decision. I was finishing up school. I was playing in bands when I was quite young. And I've got great parents, and they were going, well, your brothers went to uni and stuff. Like, you don't really want to do that, do you? I wasn't really that academic. And my dad encouraged me to do this. Dad was like, you're in bands, but do you realise that I hear you on the phone. You're the one organising every band practice. You're corralling all four of them. I don't hear them calling you. You call the other three guys and say, right, being here at 2, I just spoke to Ben. We're all going to meet at 2. And then you call this, you should manage bands. And there was this it was just a moment of
light bulb, right?
Light bulb moment. And I was like, he's right. And I am that's my personality. That's his personality too, my dad's. We're organised people. We're very, we have a strong sense of civic duty. All Donovans do, because our dad instilled that in us. So we believe that our work is for the community as much as it is for ourselves and our families, no matter what it is we do. And I saw that as a way of joining those two beliefs together, my love of music and that. So once I did that, it was actually a really simple decision to stop playing the drums, because I don't know, in a way my brain works like that. I remember very distinctly my whole life had been drums. I'd saved for this drum kit, done so much. I finally had the perfect kit. I had everything going. I was working at Pro Audio in Canberra, the music shop, and being in bands and doing this stuff. And so my drums were my life, it was my identity. Everyone, oh, that's Gregg, he's a drummer, But I remember this moment very, very clearly, just like, yep, I'm calling Pro Audio. I'm going to see if they want to buy my kit back off me. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. Then how am I going to meet a band to manage? Because I'm quitting my band. I don't want to play in the band anymore and they're going nowhere. Okay. So I'm going to put on a local event with all Canberra bands. So I sold my drum kit and I put on an event and I called it a celebration of Canberra noise. And I just started cold calling my favourite Canberra bands that I'd supported or played with, all through a uni contact. The guy booked the bands at the local uni and he gave me a whole bunch of phone numbers. And I thought that's what managers do. Turns out that was a promoter, but, I learnt that lesson. And it went well. It sold out. We did 600 tickets and everyone got paid and I got the bug. And that was that.
And when was the next one? You're like, wow, what's next? What's next? Next?
I mean, I managed a band out of that called the Hammonds. They got a publishing deal with MI Publishing. I met my first person in Sydney. Then bands started coming through Canberra, all the indie bands. So I through a friend of mine, Simon Walbrook, down in Melbourne, who's really talented guy himself, producer. He told me about this Canberra promoter called Steve Pav, who lived in Sydney, Steve Pavlovic. He was the guy bringing out Beastie Boys and stuff like that. So they were our favourite bands.
Sick.
Yeah. And Simon was like, he's the guy. Because Simon was a big music fan. He was like, I tracked him down just to talk to him and I've had a chat with him. He's a cool dude, I was like, all right, I'm going to track down this Steve Pavlovic guy and I'm going to get a job with him. So I tracked him down and I said, I'll come and do a week's work experience for free for you for a week. And he was like, oh, okay. And I did. I went up there and worked for a week and he said to me, well, how about you become my local rep in Canberra? I'll give you 5% of my 10% of my 20%. And you do all the local stuff. So you pick him up from the airport. You've got to get the rider set up for all the drinks. So that was great. I did about 5-6 shows for him. And he said, you want a job in Sydney working for me full-time as an office manager? I did. And then I said to him, only if you train me as a tour manager. Only if you train me as a tour manager. Because tour management was a dead door. And I was thinking, I've got to go to uni now. I've done a few test runs in my own little world, my own bubble, but there's no people here. I'm not learning anything from anybody in Canberra, right? The guy at the uni, I was surpassed already. I was already thinking he was too safe and not, come on, we got to build this scene, you know? And so I knew I had to get out of Canberra. So I just said that, Steve, and for a year I was changing fax toner and running for toilet paper and getting on my skateboard and going down to Waterfront Records and picking up 10 grand worth of tickets in cash and skating back to the office and chucking it in the vault. And that's what I did for a year, was just do that sort of stuff. And then I started working for a guy called Nick Tischler, who was, Pav's tour manager. And he still is the biggest tour manager in Australia for Live Nation. And Nick started training me his tours. So I would prep his tours for him. Okay, this is how you've got to set out flights. This is how you've got to set out the hotel. This is the level with that. These are our agents we use for travel. All of those things. He opened the curtain back for me on how to do one show 6 times in 6 different towns in 7 days. He taught me how to do that.
Big smart business.
Yeah. He taught me how to go to the next level. So all of a sudden I knew how to do the mechanics of that. And then one day just luck got on my side. And I remember it so well. It was 94-5, I think. And Pav rang me up and said, hey, Tischler's sick. Fugazi land in the morning. You're the only one who's been booking all the travel and stuff, so you know the tour. You're the tour manager. Call Nick if you've got any problems. Because Pav was overseas trying to sign another band for a tour. And he said, whatever you do, don't fucking tell him you've never done this before. So there I was the next morning, picking up Fugazi. I'm a tour manager like that. And they're just like, hey, this guy's our tour manager. And at the time, Fugazi was so important and so seminal in that indie scene that everything flooded through after that for me because they all knew each other. So all of a sudden, I'm Eddie Vedder's personal assistant because Ian Mackay told him, you're going out to Australia, this guy's your guy. So it all just became a scene thing. So all of a sudden, I'm that. And then all of a sudden, I did one punk band with no effects. And then I'm out with Good Riddance and Sick of It All and Lagwagon and all these punk bands, because it's all sort of scene related. And then I started working with Ben Harper and then I went overseas and was touring around overseas a lot. And all of a sudden, it was like, oh, this is great. I'm making $3,000 US a week. I'm out here meeting all these incredible people. And I'm doing this next level, but I suddenly realised, hey, this was supposed to be university. This was supposed to be 3 or 4 years. And now I'm talking 10 years of my life, And that was like, okay, back to Australia, management. So I came back to Australia and I tried to get a tour manager gig, and there was this young band breaking called Grinspoon. And they were blowing up, right? It was the big single right at the start. And I hadn't been around, right, at all. So I had no idea who Grinspoon were. No concept of them whatsoever. But they were blowing big. And the first thing I said was like, love the lead singer, he's really punk, but fuck, man, someone's got to teach him to sing. I remember saying that. I had no idea I was going to work with them, Actually, I remember the gig. I was tour managing face-to-face from America. We played some Channel V or Red Festival or something here in Sydney, and Grinspoon were the headliner, and we were the, playing underneath them. And the first time I've ever even heard of them. And I didn't even meet them that day. And then I won an award at the Australian Live Music Awards for the best tour manager for that year. There was an interview with me saying that I don't do hard drugs and I don't get involved in that shit, and that's not what I do, because they had asked me that question in the interview, right? They were like, do you guys have to buy drugs? It was like a funny question. People always ask you that as a tour manager. I said, absolutely not. And if tour managers do buy them drugs, they should get sacked right away. If artists want to do drugs, they're more than welcome, but don't involve me in that shit.
I don't want to be caught up in
I
that
don't
slime.
want to. It's not my. It's got nothing to do with me. My job is tour managing.
I'll pick you up in the morning.
Yeah,
do your shit.
I had this kind of spiel, and Phil Jamison was like, "Oh, we need him," So he rang Justin, and Justin rang me up and said, "Phil just read the interview. Is it true you don't do drugs?" And I went, "Yeah." And he goes, "All right, well, this camp's pretty wild, so come on in and do some cleaning." And I was like, "All right, deal on." I kind of came in, and some new crew started that time with me as well. Like Anthony Petruzzo, the lighting guy, started the same day I did with the band. He still works with me every day now. He's Airborne's production manager. He's still Grinspoon's lighting guy and production manager. We still work with him constantly. All those people from back then are pretty much still with us. So it was a funny time becoming Grinspoon's manager because it all happened so quickly after becoming their tour manager. You know, I finished off that Guide to Better Living cycle, went into the Easy cycle with them, the second album. And during that cycle, Justin quit, just decided he didn't want to be in the music business anymore. And I had a phone call. You know, Justin's office was down the road here at Manly, right? You remember that, down on the beach?
Big time.
Yeah, and he calls me up one day. I just got back from tour with Grinspoon. He's like, you got to come over to the office. He was all like freaking out a bit. Yeah, okay, let's say that. It was wild, right? It was the morning. I'm like, morning is all right. Justin, I just got off tour. I'm having some days off. Can we do it later? He's like, no, you got to come over now. So I get over there and he's like, okay, I won't tell Justin's story, but I'm going away. My wife's making sure I'm going away. I have to go sort myself out. I'm going to get some downtime. Someone else is taking on Def Effects, start coming over to pick all this shit. This is all Grinspoon stuff here, all in these boxes. I'm going, whoa, slow down. What are you talking about? He goes, you're their manager now, or you need to find them a manager, one or the other, because I'm leaving now. I'm like, whoa. And he's like,
he was an all-or-none dude anyway.
He was an all-or-none dude. He was like,
isn't now, but he was.
The band owed me some money. Tell them they're off the hook, and good luck. And he took off. I remember walking down the stairs with boxes with his wife pulling up in the station wagon to drive him off. And I'm just like, okay. And so I was just sitting in my car, Manly, going, okay, this is an opportunity, right? Now, I knew Grinspoon were probably going to go, oh, no, you're not managers, Greg, you're our tour manager. At the time, that was the right thing for them to think, right? I wasn't established as a manager. I had Super Heist. They were a support band of Grinspoon. I wasn't on their level at the time. So I got them meetings with all the big managers. You know, I got them to go and see John Watson. I got to go to see Paul Petico and all these things. And for various reasons, they were either personality clash. John Watson told them he didn't want to manage them. And you should let Greg manage you. And so they gave me a trial period of 6 months. And we've never mentioned that trial period or anything again. We did a contract for 4 years. And it had a 6-month trial period where they could pull out. And we've never, ever pulled that contract out of the drawer since. Grinspoon haven't been signed to me for 16 years. We just do business together. We're a family. We don't need contracts. We don't do it like that. And there'll be a lot of people out there scuffing at that. This is art. So if they're not happy, they should go. If I'm not happy, I should go. So fine with us. We're all paid up. Everything's transparent. Everyone knows they've got access to the money. We're all adults. They want to move on, they'll move on. We move on, we'll move on. I have a contract. We've got a piece of paper. It's a prenup. It's not a contract. What happens to the money? It's just a prenup. It should be in the drawer. Everything should be an adult discussion. You know, it's just what happens when things go wrong. Well, who gets what when we leave this relationship? That's all. Who gets paid what when we make money? That's all a contract does. I don't need them signed in for 4 years. They're a fucking band. What do you think Phil Jamison's going to say to me if I go, you've got another year on your contract, Phil, you've got to stay with me? If he hates me and doesn't want to be managed, Phil Jamison's going to give a shit about a contract? These are musicians. They're not like a lot of other people. You know, I think Dylan's manager said it the best. If the birdie ain't happy, the birdie won't sing.
Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, at the end of the day, you know, we've all got that freedom aspect in our life that we want to know what songs we want to bring out. You know, even ourselves in the shower. I'm probably the world's worst singer, but there's songs that I know that are just in my brain that I sing, and they're my songs. I wrote a song about putting my son to bed, and that's my song. And
you write your own little songs?
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. I sing others, but I've never tried doing that.
Just to put my son to bed, I just kind of came up with this little nursery rhyme thing. And, you know, someone said, do you do, you know, Bar Bar Black Sheep? I was like, no, dude, I wrote my own track, you know. And
yeah, man.
That's his track, you know. But, you know, at the end of the day, we are who we are. And that's the fabric of, you know, that, again, for me, it's this trust, know, and like I get back to this thing in my mind where I go, a situation, to say you and I, like, I know you, I like you, I trust you. Some people I don't like, I know, and I trust them, but I just don't like them, so I won't work with them. And that just sort of builds a fabric of the qualifying pillars for my company and my person these days. Because, you know, I went through a personal brand change myself, and that's, you know, one of the greatest things that you end up doing is evolving.
Yeah.
But that trust, know, and like qualifier, for me, that's where I end up sitting back going, all right, okay. I know him, I like him, but gee, I can't trust him. You know, and it mightn't be money. It might just be that they're unreliable.
Yeah, it might be unreliable. It might just simply be that, you know, they talk too much and it's a sensitive subject that we're going to be working on, and we need people who are just going to keep it tight and not go off and tell people, oh, we're working with this person and that. You know, there's a lot of making yourself look good with the industry people in the music business, you know, going around and dropping names. I mean, yeah, I'm guilty of it too. Self-promotion, right? But, you know, sometimes projects you're working on are really exciting stories and you just can't let people know because you need that story to have impact when it comes out. You don't want people going, oh, I know about that. You want that magic online sticky moment. People go, oh, they're doing that. Oh, send a friend. You know, you need that little dopamine hit. And if people know about something, the dopamine hit's not going to come. In fact, you often get the opposite. Oh, I know about that. I'm not even going to look at it. You know, it's just some weird human psychological thing.
And it's just an ego trip, which generally comes from low self-esteem, right? Because that's what you would have seen over the years. Is that in your psychology of the human being? Is that where you think that comes from?
I probably did a lot of that myself when I was still coming up. You know, I probably oversold myself a lot. I'm anyone who knows me knows I'm not ashamed to self-promote, you know.
But you'll have a dig, like you'll do, as you said, you will go the machine gun approach on many things.
Yeah.
That you know there's strategy to it and you'll work through, I guess, the business model and the pros and cons, but you really dig, you know, you have a big dig, Dono, and I'm proud to say that, you know, not only am I a friend of yours, but you're a success story. I remember speaking to John Theodore, not to drop a name, but, you know, someone who you introduced me to when he was the drummer of the Mars Volta. When I knew you were, you know, managing the Airborne band and they were starting to blow up, I was singing, I said to John, I was like, I wonder how he'll go internationally. But you proved the Knockers when they said musically they weren't the right fit, but you've actually proved the Knockers again on a global scale.
Yeah, I'm really proud of that one. Really proud of that one. And yeah, I think John finds that band funny too. You know, as you know, he's playing with Queens of the Stone Age these days. He's a fully fledged member there now, and he's killing it in that one too. You know, I personally think on that last Queens record, I reckon Mark Ronson's production sucked the cymbals in a bit too much for me because he's that production guy, you know, cymbals in the back, and you know, John's so good at cymbals and being that. You know, if you know,
would you
John
say
Theodore
best
as a
drummer
drummer
in the world?
I think he's the best rock drummer in the world, hands down.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely, I do. I've said that many times.
He's like a beast when he's on. Like when that,
he's so good to watch play. I mean, it's fucking great to watch him play. Standing side stage and watching John Theodore play drums is exciting, especially as a drummer. You know, a failed drummer. For me, I understand what he's doing up there and the physicality of it, the on pointness, if that's a term of it. You know, the passion he hits those skins with. He is what a rock drummer is supposed to be. He's textbook perfect. He should be the dictionary picture of a rock drummer. That's why I think he's the best drummer in the world. Rock drummer.
There's nothing that surpasses, you know, I think John's ability to be disciplined as well. You know, a lot of people think, you know, how do you get so good? It's like
practice.
It's total, like he cycles, you know, there's stuff.
Surfs, cycles, eats well, looks after himself, plays. Because
he knows the tour's coming up that will be cigs and beers and all the other stuff that I suppose comes with being the rock drummer of Queens of the Stone Age. It's a real it's a real gig, right?
Yeah, it's and it's hard work.
Yeah. And what about, you know, in Australia, you know, the Australian music education, you know, how do kids get into it? If you're a kid watching this and you're a young girl or a guy, you know, that is finding an identity with music and they really want to try and calibrate their ethics to become this great musician, and I guess they got their own personal development and growth inside. How do you become a flower boy or
the flower kid?
Sorry, flower kid.
You mean an artist?
How do you get there? What's the mission?
I think what's really important is to understand that if you write a great song and have a good vision for yourself, we'll find you. It's not hard. It's just got to be great. We are all so connected. The industry, you know, when we sign Paper Kites, it's like, I remember it really well. Stephen Wade, the agent, and I are talking because he books Josh Pike for me. We're playing the Corner down in Melbourne. Richard Moffat books the Corner. Richard was like our favourite booker, still kind of is. You know, books a lot of big festivals like Groove in the Moo, and he's been a big booker for a lot of years. And he just kind of goes, oh, you're looking for support here. You should check out Paper Kites. They're this really cool band. They're really mellow, but they're pulling some good numbers. But you know, they had never sent anything to anyone in the industry. They were building up to do that. They were just trying to create a bit of a vibe and get ready to push their EP out. And we heard it and we're like, oh, we'll sign that. That's great. Bam. A lot of the stuff comes, you know, Amy sent a link to our website. And our assistant sent it to Stu. And Stu sent it to me and said, what do you think of this? Because we never poison the well, negative or positive with art. Never. Even with our own artists we have. Here's the single, what do you think of it? You know, it's just like, no one, you have to have your own opinion. Everyone has musical opinions in silos.
So the method you're suggesting is put yourself out there.
We do that.
Write the tracks.
Yeah, write the
if
tracks,
I'm the young
put yourself
artist
out
going,
there.
how do I do it?
Stop worrying about getting to us and worrying about how to be great. There's nothing worse than endlessly going to Big Sound and South by Southwest, and there's all these super organised artists that look like they're probably going to be managers one day. You know, they've got the pack, they've got everything ready, they've spent money coming over here, they've been researching everything. And I'd say, why didn't you spend that time writing a song? You know, just write a great song and email it to me. There's a lot of work and money. Like, well, you're not going to listen to it. And I listen to everything that comes our way. Maybe 30 seconds of it sometimes.
But you know in 30, right?
Yeah, I know in 4, but I say 30 to make people feel better. You know, it's like anything you do for 10,000 hours, right? We all have that same skill with what we do. Someone who welds can walk in and look at any weld and in 1 second go, that's shit. That's a good weld, you know? Like, it's the same for anybody. And so, yeah, we can do the same. All of us can. Everyone in the music business has been in it for a long time can. It's not a unique skill, you know? So they just have to be great. And they have to have a vision for themselves. So Montaigne's interesting. She's an artist we signed when she was quite young, and she very much had a vision for herself. She wanted to be an alt pop star. She wanted to be a new breed of alternative pop. So she wanted to do it with integrity for the environment. She wanted to do it for integrity for human beings. She wanted to do it she's woke as hell, you know, and she wants that new world. She wants to use her music, and she wants to use pop music to do it. So she's not afraid to talk about political issues and be on Eurovision at the same time. She wants that for herself. Now, that to me is exciting. That's a young woman with a strong vision. Determined, strong vision, and knows what she wants for herself.
She's in her lane, right?
Yeah, she's in her lane. And she's got a unique voice. Being unique helps. Once again, this guy, Michael Smowski, who was she actually was a runner-up in Triple J's Unearthed High. And Michael Smowski just noticed her as a talent when she was really young. He was an A&R guy at Albert's Publishing at the time. And he signed her and just developed her for a little while because she was just so young, but she was clearly had this vision. And then he brought her to us and he put on a little showcase over at Albert's, and me and Stu went over. And we normally take time to make decisions about it. We walked out of there, both of us just sort of shaking, and I was like, I want. And she's like, oh, we're crazy if we don't go. Let's just go. Let's just do it. Let's just go back. And we didn't even finish our sentence. Oh, yeah, let's go. I was just didn't even need to talk about it. It's just like we have to get this, and we just walk right back in. And Jess was there with her mum, and Montaigne's name's Jess, and Michael's there, and Michael's somebody he signed Josh to Albert's Publishing, so we'd worked with him, and Michael had said good things about us. So Montaigne was like, yeah, let's do it, and so it just happened like that. Again, you normally find a champion that connects with your vision, and that champion connects you. That's 9 out of 10 times. And then there's these freak things that happen weirdly every now and then. That's not the norm. The norm is be great, output content, someone will find you. Just put out your content, try to spread it around. Maybe go and put comments on bands you like that might have, think about where your fans are. Don't think, do I like that band? Think, do the people who listen to that band like me? So bands can be competitive. Sometimes I'll offer a support. And in my head, I go, it's a perfect support because the people in the room don't know much about my band and we'll be able to steal some of their fans. My band will go, I don't like that band. I don't want to play with them. I go, but it's similar demographic. You just don't like them. And they've got 5 times more fans than you, and we could go and steal some of them. And that's the way I think. They think, I don't want to be associated with that band. It's like, well, there's nothing uncool about them. The rest of your band even like them. You just don't.
Well, there is, and eyes won't lie, will they? You know what I mean? Like,
that's right.
Like it or not. The interesting thing is, you're in this classic world of tickets and T-shirts because, let's face it, you said it before, the streams do work if you got the numbers, but the tickets and T-shirts are your
That's the day-to-day work.
Yeah, that's the economy.
Yeah.
Where does it go from here? Is this the bad film that we've all lived through, the apocalyptic trip?
Yeah, I think we're headed for the good stuff now, yeah. I mean, you can see it in all the streaming numbers. Spotify is very much coming online now for everybody. The reason why there's been so much confusion about Spotify and streaming, and have we got time to touch on this for a minute?
Yeah, man.
So streaming's been interesting because, there was a period a few years back where all the artists were complaining about it, and Taylor Swift even tried to run a big campaign to push off Spotify for having their freemium level. That was probably that was when I was more disheartened in the industry than ever before. Even the Napster period, which broke my heart, 2008 global financial crisis broke our heart. They were tough times, but this whole streaming thing was really bad because we were seeing the numbers grow in different demographics. Spotify, to us, was the lifeline.
Yeah,
right? So to me and my business partner, Stu, we were like, give us that line, man, yes. And our artists are going, I read this article, I don't want to be on Spotify, take down all my catalogue, right? So this is how I convinced all my bands to stop saying that. And I wish I could have told every artist in the world this. This is the analogy I'm going to use, and I back this analogy. The music industry is London, World War II, the day after the war ended. We had the shit bombed out of us, man. And Spotify is the trucks and the tools and the wood and the metal and the steel we need to start rebuilding. So lean in or piss off because no one's gonna buy the CD anymore. The city's not here anymore. It got bombed. It's just not here. People were trying to put the genie back in the bottle. And I'm standing there going, there's no bottle, there's no genie, there's nothing there anymore. It's over. We have to embrace this. So to me, it was like lean in or piss off. And I hated all this talk coming from the industry because when artists talk, everybody listens. When I talk, nobody listens. But really, I'm the one with the experience doing it, right? The problem is the artists are the ones who are going on media. Now, I'm not being jaded. I think it's incredibly obvious what happened when Taylor Swift, 6 weeks later, launched a massive campaign supporting Apple Music after doing a big public outcry about how shit Spotify was. You know, the deals are the same. I get paid exactly the same money.
But she got paid from Apple, right?
Apple paid her to shit on Spotify. To me, she was my neighbour. My house was on fire and she was there with the hose going, I actually really grew to hate her from that. I thought that was the single most horrible thing anybody did to the music business. Whether she knew what she was doing.
Total callous. She would have known for sure. She would have been advised.
She would have been advised, but in her head, she might have been conned into, well, they have the freemium level and they don't on Apple. But the freemium level proved that it was bringing people in. You had to just think long term. The freemium level was the drug dealer mentality. Hey, the first one's for free, chico, you know. And it works. It works, right? It works. The numbers prove it. So she was wrong. And if she did it for money, I think she did. But even if she didn't do it for money, she was wrong. And she should have said so because she hurt a lot of people doing that. Spotify numbers went backwards. Artists wanted to pull out of Spotify that were getting some sort of income again. And people, my friends were going, I'm not getting Spotify, it's shit for artists. That was the period where I felt like it was never going to get fixed. I thought, okay, we've been through it all. We got a solution and everyone's too dumb to see it.
Well,
what are we going to do?
Look at COVID now. I mean, if you're not out there, where are you? Honestly, like it's the minefield because tickets and T-shirts, whilst they're cool as the day is long, they don't appear if there's no venue to play in.
That's right. And the thing is, the reason why the artists are getting confused about streaming is the ones with the big voices are the ones that are successful now. So unfortunately for them, history is not going to look back on them very luckily because their demographic isn't streaming quickly. Montaigne streams like because she's young and her demographic streams.
Paper Kites,
young. So you got bands. I mean, Grinspoon is one of the least streaming bands on my roster. Flower Kid.
Flower Kid. God,
yeah.
Man.
Yeah, I mean, you know, these things are working because Grinspoon's demographic weren't streaming, but now they're starting to. So everyone's coming online at different times. So all these artists getting confused. So you've got like the Eagles going, this is terrible. We're still selling CDs. Like, yeah, your fans are 58 years old, mate. Like, what do you...
They want a tactile thing that they can...
Why are you even saying this out loud, you moron? So I felt like the artists really let us down during that period, and I would say it a lot. I had a lot of fights with my artists. I had a lot of other managers calling me up, angry at Spotify. They were all in. If this is the future, then we have to get this right now. And I'm just like, what, 80-20 split? You're not happy with that? What other business model? I mean, does retail work that way? What's wrong with you? We get 80% of the money they make for us.
Unbelievable, isn't it?
Oh, it's a great deal. It's a great system. It makes sense for the future. What is everyone's problem? And I think it came down to people don't like change. A lot of people actually don't have much vision. And that lack of vision is a real problem because it can't be Christmas every day. Sometimes you've got to plan for Christmas, right? Can't just wake up and it be Christmas. So that annoyed me at that period, was that everyone's sitting there going, yeah, but it should be like this. Like, yeah, it should be Christmas today, but it's not. You know,
And if you don't do the work, it never will be, right? Like
Right.
if you don't do the work.
never will be. One manager in America, an older guy, said, this guy called Bill McGathy, he was the guy who got like Nirvana on the radio and everything, right? And he said to me in his big, gruff New York voice once, when we were drilling down on an argument, a professional argument on an issue, and I was fighting for something for my band that I kind of didn't agree with, but the band had landed on a decision. But you've got to fight for that anyway, right? Because they're my client. You know, I'm kind of like a lawyer in a way.
You're in the band too.
Yeah,
you are in the band.
Yeah,
as a manager, you know
yeah,
what I mean?
I advise them what I want to do, and if the general decision is to go the other way, I go the other way, and I don't complain about it. I go, no, my artist wants this, and I want it for them as well. You know, but I'm not going to say I don't agree with them. I don't do that. So, you know, we were kind of in that moment with Spotify. A lot of that was happening. A lot of the artists wanted to go in the wrong way and do all this kind of stuff, and it was, like I said, it was really disheartening. But they're just all coming online differently, and they're all seeing that now. And nobody in the artist world talks about Spotify being bad anymore. They all love it. They all on the phone. Oh, playlist. How do we get more playlists? How do we get more playlists? That's all it is. They all absolutely have embraced it. They all have it. They all love it. They are all converted. And nobody remembers those days now. Everyone's just walking around like, even that other manager I had the big fight for is like I read an article the other day about them being all Spotify and how it's, you know, some of them, you know, similar words we've been used about my argument 5 years ago. It's like, why can't you people see this stuff? And I think that slowed us down a lot. I think we slowed ourselves down, which was a pity because we could have been going better during this COVID period if we hadn't stepped on our own toes during that period and sent a message to the world that Spotify was bad when it wasn't. It was the saviour.
Well, you got to somehow hold people's hand till they can find a plan, because a lot of people aren't going into strategy. They're not thinking. They're not seeing the numbers. They're just complaining. The glass is never half full.
Yeah.
It's always half empty.
Yeah.
And they're pessimistic. And that pessimistic, as you said earlier, that the bad seed that can be in the band that doesn't even feel like it wants to be a bad seed, but it grows into a cancerous beast. You just got to cut it out, right?
Yeah, you do, or you just got to move away from it.
Yeah.
Because it just becomes the figurative spanner in the works.
Probably a lot of incredible artists we've never heard of and never will because of that.
I think there's a lot more incredible music we would have been given as a world if that didn't exist. I have seen so much great talent fall over due to their own poor decision making. It's really disheartening to watch. It happens more than you know.
Without a doubt. I mean, the errors that people make, you know, they're not even conscious of the repercussions that they have in life, especially if they can't work out a strategy to think, you know what, maybe I was wrong. You know, that ownership and the self-acceptance. I mean, a lot of these artists, they get into, as you said, the drugs are on offer, the illicit relationships, you know, there's so much
The ego driving.
tension
the
shit
most
for their
dangerous
brain,
of all.
huh?
Yeah. And also, every artist is a little bit different, but let's say that moment actually works for you as an artist. You've been preparing your own vision, you've been outputting content, and someone like me calls you up and goes, hey, I really dig this stuff. This song is really cool. What are you doing with it? You know, well, just took it to Triple J. They like it too. And they reckon they go, oh, you're going to get an ad. That's interesting. And all of a sudden, bam, that song blows up, right? Now, if I'd got to them a month before, I would have gone, oh, do not take that song to Triple J. What are you, crazy? Where's the follow-up song? Have you got, I want to hear that first. Just park that. Okay, you do have the follow-up. Cool. Where's the next one? Okay, cool. Okay, so we've got the next 9 months. Okay, cool. We're ready to go now. Okay, have we got the right photo? Have we got the right bio? What do we got coming up in Triple J's world? Okay, I need to go out and get you some gigs supporting some bands that are on Triple J right now. What bands on Triple J right now that are like you? Cool, let's bring them into Triple J's world. Make Triple J feel like they're part of their world. Hey, this is that band that played with that band that we signed, and we got all these bands, and here's their song, right? And we got backup. Now, the problem is, if you've got one song and nobody knows how to do that stuff, you just think, I'm just going to get to the radio and then everything's going to go. Biggest mistake. Happens all the time. Young managers make the mistake, young artists make the mistake. Slow down, people. Set up your next 9 months, then drop that song. You know, don't drop your biggest hit or your biggest, strongest song you've got without an actual model of how to follow through with it. And everybody wants to rush into it. Everybody, it's exciting, right? And if you write a song and record it, you can do it. You can get feedback real quick now, right? We used to have to go to studios for $1,500 a day or $1,000 a day and work with different people. And then eventually you'd start hearing, and that would be the demos, you know. Now these kids can do it in their bedroom on their own. And
it sounds the money.
Yeah,
It's
and
so
maybe
good.
they do have a good sounding board around them. You know, maybe they've got someone with good taste and a good attitude who's going, yeah, I don't know about that bit. It kind of feels weird to me, you know. Like, it's good having those people around if they're supportive and constructive, you know. And so if that person starts validating you, who has been, which is normally real, you know, like, wow, you're really nailing it now. That's a real moment to be excited. And yeah, that's the song. That's the song. And all they've wanted to do is get to this moment to please the people around them that they've been getting advice from and they trust, which is normal. And then they're, great, I've got it. Oh, thank God, I just want to get it out now. It's like, no, you've done a quarter of the job. Sorry. Slow down. So every time we sign a band, they've got all these things they can do in 6 months. And we go, okay, we're going to do none of them. And they go, what? No, we're going to do none of it. Okay, so we're just going to stop. I'm going to cancel all these shitty little gigs you got because I don't know what you're doing them for. Why have you got 5 gigs booked over 5 Thursdays at the same room down in Melbourne? Oh, you know, we get practicing. Nope, you're being a slut. And no one cares about you if you do that. You're not going to do that. You're not going to be the slut. Go back home. Take those boots off. You know. And so that's the way we do. We slow down, man. You know, that's what we tell everyone to do. Slow down. Think about it logically. Work out the next step before anybody else knows what it is. We have to be ahead of everybody, and we have to know we are creating you. We have to know what the next step is and what we're delivering into our networks of media, radio, online, whatever, how our budgets of marketing and promotion budgets match all that, then deliver it to market, just like you do any product. You know, and you have to have the big plan. So that's where the failure happens over and over again. That's the sad moment. So yes, they do make bad decisions from time to time and they have bad attitudes from time to time, or maybe drugs get them from time to time. But 9 out of 10 times, it's that moment.
The knee jerk. It's a total knee jerk, right?
And everything's about momentum in this business.
Yeah.
You know, all it takes is like a female artist pop through, oh, she's so hot, she's really, really cool. And then you don't have a follow-up song and they go, oh, what happened to her? She was so cool. That's 9 weeks that'll happen to you. The perception in our business is brutal. So you better make sure you can follow up and finish your first cycle. Remember Montaigne finished her first cycle and there were like 3 big hits on the record. She'd done lots of music videos. We had lots of great press on her. She was the up-and-coming alt pop queen of Australia. We finished the cycle. Bam, she gets Eurovision. And then we quieten down. Slow down. You know, quieten down. We did that first push into the first level. That's good. We don't want to keep overplaying our hand. We just slow down now. And now we start building the career more systematically and more focused on what we're doing.
Drill down on what you did to get yourself good and do it better, right?
Hell yeah.
Is that the deal? Or?
Yeah, and how do we find exactly the deal? And how do we find more reach? It's always about finding more reach, right? So that's the moment that artists have to watch out for, is not having the right people around them, not necessarily in terms of attitude, but just knowledge base, to know that a great song can be completely ruined by being put out at the wrong time. And that's a fact of our business. So just because it's great, you know, I call it the ugly baby syndrome. No one's got an ugly baby, right? But I think in people's hearts of hearts, they know if their baby's ugly. They just can't say it out loud, right? It's the same for the musicians, right? So it's almost like, yeah, but I've got this good-looking baby. I've got this gorgeous baby. I need to show it to the world. And I understand that need, but they need to also understand that, like, if you just bring out the ugly baby next, you're going to let everyone down, you know? So maybe we bill it out, the ugly baby, and start looking for another good-looking one after this one that's even better looking, and then a better looking, you know? Like,
I tell you what, it goes back again to Trujillo. Like, I've been fortunate enough to get a little bit of time with Rob over the years, and I went up to Metallica HQ, and that was just
Crab boy.
Man, it was awesome. Yeah. That was the biggest buzz. But one of the things that Rob really instilled in me, again, you know, I've been fortunate enough to work with great people like yourself and see big touring and private jets and all this, you know, sort of just right time, right place. But the thing that he said to me, and it's him, he goes, man, you got to be in the trenches.
Hell yeah.
And if you're not in the trenches, no matter if you're him at, I think Rob's like 10 years older than me, he's like 57. If you're not in the trenches, like I start my most days at 2 a.m., 3 a.m. I get to 9, and people are going, you know, oh, morning, Matt, how are you? And I'm thinking, they're asking on a request, and I'm thinking, you know what, I've done a day's work already. By 11, I can pack up and go home if I want
Yeah.
every day of the week.
Yeah.
But people don't do it. They go, how do you get up at 2 a.m.? Why do you do it? And like, I get up, I lie there, I meditate for a second, then I go, you know, let's rock this day. There's so many things I can do between 2 and 8 that people aren't even doing.
Yeah. I mean, I have a more a normaler version of that, but I'm an early riser and early to bed when I'm not on tour, because I can get so much done in the mornings when the industry's asleep, because, you know, it's generally a night industry. The artists work at night, so they are and should be sleeping at that time of day. So I can get a load done early in the morning too. So it's a good time for me to work as well. But 2 or 3, I'm not sure I could hack that one.
But again, it's that trenches mentality. If you don't have it, no matter if you're on a roll and then you go, you know what, it's so cushy here. You know, it's like a bouncing bit of Play-Doh, your life, you know, you think, you know, life's so good, but you will get absolutely whipped and you'll be back to finding love within yourself.
And in this day and age too, you will get whipped even more, I think. You know, in these times of just constant change and upheaval and all these, I mean, I've got I like having a motto for myself, and they change regularly. I don't, you know, normally even say anything to anybody. Slow down's been a big one for a long time and everything. But for me right now, looking at the way men and women are being viewed in the music industry and in the world in general, the way, you know, looking at never really understanding white male privilege before, and then looking at it now and suddenly realising, oh, I'm complicit in a system that helped me do that. I'm one of them. I didn't even realise it, you know, like, yeah, I'm nearly 50. I'm turning 50 at the end of this year. I'm a white, middle-aged, middle-class male, and it wasn't that hard for me to get into the industry. I mean, I asked questions, I knocked on doors, and I got opportunities. And I look back on it, and people go, oh, you must have hustled to do it. And I was like, yeah, I put on a gig, I rang Pav up. You know, it's like I just followed my nose and just drilled down on the issue like I always do.
Had a chance, right?
Had a chance, you know. It wasn't anything other than that. Anybody could do it. This whole time now, this whole time of great change within the world of what we're watching in our society, I think a lot of people my age, and I was certainly guilty of this even only months ago, of, oh, well, it's getting a bit too woke for my liking. Where is this line of political correctness? Where is this? What are we allowed to say? What, you know, all this stuff I think has been annoying people. I got to a point where I suddenly realised, oh, I love all this. The new motto is grow or die. And all of a sudden I thought, I'm going to become woke as hell. And I started thinking about plastic all of a sudden. And I started thinking about all those things and how we're all connected. You know, how we talk about the vibrations with all the atoms with the music, and it's all connected, and music speaks for it all. Well, so is this, and so is the planet. If I'm going to believe that, then I have to believe this.
Petroleum right there. It's petroleum, right?
Yeah. And if I'm going to believe all that about music, I have to believe that about my relationship with nature, my relationship with women, my relationship with my community and with other men, you know, and I have to think about all that and make sure that I'm growing or not. And I think that is the new motto that we're all given, whether we like it or not right now. Grow or die.
It's an interesting thing because my wife, I'm very fortunate to have a really evolved partner. And, you know, she's from a Taiwanese background, so she's from an Oriental mindset, you know, and her self-discipline and herself has been so incredible for me to learn about, because she wasn't, you know, she wasn't raised at Manly, you know, she wasn't raised with that simple surfer's attitude that, you know, life is, you know, you didn't really care, you know, it was so simple for me to do whatever I wanted. And if don't tell me what to do and this, that, and the other, but, you know, it's like, who are you to be privileged because the color of your skin and your gender, you know?
Yeah.
And I think COVID's really woken me up to the greater aspect of living. And, you know, I look at, say, where we're sitting now, you know, we're 1.5 meters apart. This desk was built for COVID.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the trip of it all for me is like, I'm concerned about the people that can't change, because it's like a movie where you're just like waving to someone goodbye and it's like, you're still doing all these things, but why would I need to have a relationship with you in any level? You know,
I think you're describing the culture wars right now that we're all well aware of. You know, that's a description of the culture wars, and that's why we have to grow or die. We have to. I mean, we can't be voting people like Trump in America. You just can't be doing that. It's not a reasonable, rational thing to be doing. And clearly, it's the culture wars that are doing these kind of things and creating us and them scenarios. You know, the internet's been brilliant, but we've used it very poorly, you know, and, you know, like I was hearing somebody this morning when I was grabbing a coffee in the cafe talking about how in France they've nearly got the vaccination for COVID. It's got a GPS in it and they're going to be able to follow us all around. And they believed it, you know. And I just thought, this looks like a very normal middle-aged woman and another one. And she was talking about it like it was real because she obviously, I don't know, why? Was she not evolved enough? Was she not what? But why is she standing there talking like a normal human? Like, yeah, they've come up with a COVID thing and it's got a GPS in it. So they're going to, why would they do that? They're not doing that. They're not doing it. I don't care what anybody says. They're not doing that crap. Here's the truth about all those paranoid people online about they think they're being tracked and watched. Nobody cares about you. Nobody's tracking you. You're not important enough. Give it up.
Well,
that's what's really happening. So all that shit is a real worry, you know, because people are going online and making shit up, like vaccination. You can go look at these vaccination websites, tell you, don't vax your kid, and here's why. You go ask a doctor, what is it? They go, oh, well, they're lying about that. That's just simply not true. Here are the facts. You know, like people just taking information from the wrong places. It's that simple. Where's the trust with the doctor who went to uni for 7 years gone? Why do we now think that we can get on Google and know more than them? I have friends who go, I went to the doctor, but I don't agree with him, so I'm getting another one because this, and this. No, you want that. It's not that you, there's a big difference between want and need. A big, big difference. The doctor told you the truth, so you're going to another one to get a different truth. You're going to get the same truth.
And then you believe your own truth in the end.
Well, they went to another doctor and they got the same truth from the other doctor because they both went to uni and they know what they're doing.
1+1, right?
Right. They know. And this person doesn't. And so they've gone into their own alternative online research and they're talking to fucking idiots on the internet about how to fix this major disease they've got. And I'm just like, at least do both, man. At least have some blind faith in these people. And he's not, because he doesn't have trust. And he's the guy who's always believed that, you know, 9/11 towers were blown up by George Bush and blah, blah, blah. He's that guy, you know, and that is a distrust for society. Something happened to these people when they were young and they don't trust society. And there needs to be some sort of effort by the government to create a program of cognitive behavioural therapy for them so they can learn that they are attacking themselves and attacking the world at the same time. We're all connected. We all need to work together and we all need to do this. And you've had something that happened in your life, like lots of us have, and
We
you
all
need to
have.
go, yeah, I've gone and worked out shit. I've made a lot of mistakes in my life and I've had to go and work it out. And personally, I've done it through cognitive behavioural therapy with a psychologist, you know, and other people should do more of that. You know, lean on the people who know what they're doing. You know, it amazes me how many times in this day and age people have such solid opinions on things they've never done in their life. It's unbelievable to the point because they looked at it online or they saw it in a doco. You go, yeah, but you do know when you go there, the reality is always different, you know? Oh, let's make a table. Great. Oh, let's cut the wood up. Oh, this wood's got wood rot. What you want and what the universe gives you are two different things, right? Anybody who's got this much common sense knows that to be true, right? You'd think they would, right? What I want, what the universe gives me are two different things. I can wake up in the morning and go, I'm going to do this, this, and this, but it doesn't work out that way. It works out a different version of that. It's not always bad. Sometimes it's better. Sometimes it's worse. Sometimes I tread water. But that's how it works for all of us. So I think it's really, really simple with all this stuff moving forward. Be here now or pretend you're not.
6 months from now, we're going to be in 2021. Are you absolutely pumped to see this year through with that mentality? Like, and to know where you're going? This is one thing I've been doing. My wife instilled it in me. We get to Sunday, we sit down for dinner, and over the course of the meal, we talk about what we achieved in the past 7 days, what our week was.
Cool.
Post that, it was what did that add to my life?
Right.
Post that, it is what am I going to do with this next week coming forward?
Cool.
Now that's three things that I can think I've had an average week and I sit there and go, wow, what a week. That blew my mind what I achieved this week. I may not have the zeros in the bank, or I may, but what I achieved was unbelievable. And the next week, then I've got a strategy and plan to get to that next achievement of Sunday night dinner, sitting down with my wife going, babe, we got there.
Yeah.
You know,
and I think those short-term goals are as important as the long-term ones.
These next 6 months, are you absolutely pumped to line up the rest of 2021?
Yeah, I absolutely am. I mean, we're already starting to pump up for 2021. We're very realistic that it might not happen. You know, we know that, but we're running at it like it is. And if it doesn't, we will work it out. So I've booked a huge amount of tours for next year. I've got Airborne going all through Europe doing festivals in June, July, August 21. Iron Maiden are about to announce 15 stadium dates through Europe in August, which we're going to be on next year. Airborne will also be headlining things like the Brixton Academy in November, December at the end of next year. I just booked a bunch of festivals for Grinspoon next year. I booked an Australian tour for Airborne. Montaigne's got a bunch of dates and offers on the table at the moment, festivals. Everybody in the industry is ramping up for 2021 at the moment. So just in the last few weeks, my agents that I work with booking stuff for various bands around the globe, it was almost like this really cool kind of group psychology, group think thing. And all of a sudden just this strong, and no one can work out where it came from, but there's this strong message of like, okay, everyone has to stop talking about it and just run it 2021 and we'll all work it out when we get there if it's not happening.
Is this year done?
Pretty much. I mean, I've got dates this year. I've got, we've got the Boy and Bear tours on at the end of this year. Josh Pike's got a tour at the end of this year. Phil Jamison's doing a solo tour, but Phil had an idea, which I thought was really cool of him. He didn't want to sit back and just do nothing the whole time, which is what we were advising a lot of our artists. Let's sit this out. You can afford to. We need to sit this out. Phil came back and said, no, you know what? I want to do a little solo tour and I will go work harder just to keep a connection with those fans on the solo stuff. So he's going out and doing like 50 capacities in 300 rooms. So he's sticking to all the COVID rules, like one person, 4 square meters. He's doing 2 shows a day to do it.
Wow.
So we can get to 100 people a day, not, 500 or whatever. We're cutting our commission right back. It might put a few dollars in the bank for Phil, but it's not going to change his world. But that's Phil wanting to go back out there and play again. Now that's sold out in an hour and a half. So unless we go back into lockdown, those shows are going to happen. Because I have 50 in a 300-person cap room. We've got the 4 square metre block around everybody. So it's going to be different. I have no idea whether it's all going to fall over. But my vibe now is I am just going with some blind faith because I need it to come back, Maddie. I need to start selling tickets and T-shirts again sooner or later just for my own personal needs. This is what I do for a living. It's what I've done for a very long time. And it's very strange not having, I've got these big, those Sasco wall planners you get from like the big office places and, I've got the 2021s up and every band's got their own wall planner across my office, so I have 10 wall planners across the room. They're all empty, man. This is normally just a chaos of dates. They're all empty. And it nearly makes me cry. It's like, I've got to start filling these things up again, So, yeah, we're coming back and maybe COVID will have something to say about that, but we'll worry about that then.
Well, it's going to be exciting times, whatever's going to happen, because we're so unsure.
Yeah.
Like it's super interesting times for all of us on this, amazing planet.
Really is.
And, for me, it does feel like that trippy, film that you could imagine seeing a concert with everyone with masks and, with an X on the ground or, a Grinspoon sticker on the ground or an Airborne sticker or whatever it is. But whatever it's going to be, it's going to be. When people say to me, when we come out of this, and I'm like,
I was thinking of doing merch with like hazmat suits or something, like people can come in and you actually get a suit sent to you with your ticket or something. You come on with the full paper suit. You just got holes for your ears and that's it.
Big time. I always sort of think, come out of what? Like this is it.
Yeah.
This is
it's a new playing field.
It's life.
Well, this is the new normal, and we are an international world now, flat Earth, and it's caught up with us. And this will happen again and again and again. So we have to get ready for this new world. COVID's the start of us learning what it's like to have this many people on this planet this connected. And COVID was the first time punching us all in the face, going, hey, here's the other side of it. Here's the equal and opposite reaction to all that connectivity and growth you guys have done. Yeah, it's nature doing its thing.
We're awake more than ever now, and that for me is one of the greatest realities, to be in your own lane, in your skin, going, okay, where do I want to be?
Yeah. And look, most importantly, about a year and a half ago, I invested a whole bunch of money in pot stocks. And I think that it's an illegal industry that exists behind a black curtain in a lot of countries around the world. And, California and lots of other states in America have had massive booms, millions and millions of tax dollars in there. Can you think of another industry for every country to just pull away, the little showpiece curtain and go, here's a multi-billion-dollar industry? They exist. They're real. We already have legal medical marijuana in Australia. You already have dispensaries for medical marijuana here. I've invested a bit in that space. And I think that you're right in saying that we've all changed. We all have to grow. This is the new norm. I think this will expedite things like that. I'm not just talking about pot stocks and the green rush. I think there's a lot of innovative things happening around the world that are going to get fast-tracked a little bit. They're going to get more support, going to get more behind it, because we need a new world. We need to build something new. So
It's
I
like
think
the cotton industry, when the cotton industry killed the pot industry, right?
Yeah, that's right. Well, originally it was it was a newspaper guy who wanted to kill off the hemp people and wanted to keep paper because he was making shitloads of money on paper. So he went on a big campaign, because he was a politician. He went on a big campaign to demonise it. And that's where it all started in the West, with demonising marijuana, was trying to make paper the popular
Fabric
rather than hemp, because they were using it in their navies and rope and all their clothes. They were using it. It was one of the most common crops around. And then he just killed it off to make money and ruin this entire massive industry that can help people.
It's a total 10-to-1 product. You can do anything with it, right?
Yeah.
There's no glass ceiling with hemp.
Yeah, and I think we should all be thinking of that as a way to translate our other things into the new COVID world. Like, how do we, thinking of it in that way is interesting, because it's a brand new industry that exists that you can pull the curtain off. So you've got a lot of choices as how you want to make it look and work and operate, right, when it comes out. Now, it's not going to be that easy for us, because it's not just sitting behind a curtain. We have to invent that thing behind the curtain and then lift the curtain. But all of that's really exciting to me. We get to help. Everyone alive on the planet now gets to help to shape the new world. That's why it's really important, again, I think, that we grow or die. It's really important for the planet and for us.
I think the government are more aware of it too. They know that there's, as I said, black at the start, black at the end, a lot of colour in between. There's the death and taxes, and if they can get a GST component out of people, because essentially that's their main source of income is GST, right?
Yep.
It's interesting times.
It is. Yeah, I am excited about it now. It was scary there for a little while, but now I'm excited. I'm ready to get back to work now. I'm just roaring for it.
Yeah, it feels good. I mean, like yourself, you said you've gone on the, I guess the clean-up routine of yourself, your physicality, your mindset, your approach. You've drilled down into doing some handyman stuff you've never done before.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of the greatest things about this evolve or die scenario is when you're, how many weeks we're into it now, and we've evolved, where we're going to be if this still continues, because we're going to keep evolving.
Yeah. I mean, if it does, I might become like a welder or something. I mean, I've literally in this last week learned to TIG, stick, and MIG weld this week, because I'm trying to, learn new things. I'm trying to do different stuff, and I'm looking at opportunities around me. I have a neighbour who's a welder, and I've got a workshop, and I like doing handyman stuff, as you know, and so he's teaching me stuff, and we're building shelves in my workshop and welding them together, stick welding them together. So he started me with TIG welding because it's the hardest one, and worked my way back to, to stick welding, and then to from TIG to STIG. And it's just, I love it. I've really enjoyed it, because it's a zone thing. You can get in the zone and sit there and weld something and make something. And it's changing pathways in your brain, as we all know, and making us new. So I think this is the change you're discussing, right? This new pathways we can create in our brains by simply doing new things. That's how we learn, right, as humans. And I think that's the best chance we got for that kind of growth we need right now.
Look, it's a lot better than being in your own mind and just being depressed. You've got to press the button forward somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Talking about pressing buttons, this has been an excellent Brand Connect. I've
Great.
learned a lot more about you. And again, I always walk away from these experiences myself personally feeling a lot richer. It's just such a beautiful thing to sit down and learn about people and learn about industry. The people you've helped in the music industry, Gregg, are certainly all wonderful people, because they're all having a dig. They're all their own personal brand. They're all trying to work to their own label, to themselves,
Mm-hmm.
and they've built that trust, know, and like with you. And I can see why, mate. It's been a real pleasure to have you on the show, Gregg.
Thanks, Matty. I really appreciate it. It's been great being friends with you over the years too. I'm sure we've got many more to come, brother.
Mate, everyone, this is Mr. Gregg Donvovan. I'm Matt Jai. This has been BK number 10, would you believe? That's 10 shows in, and I wanted to share it with someone special. I believe I have today. If you're enjoying the Brand Connect, keep watching it. But remember, the most important thing that I say regularly, it's love yourself, love those who you love around you, and remember, this is a one-shot equation. Evolve or die, because life doesn't get any better than who we are and what we're doing right now. I'm Matt Jai. Enjoy your day, folks.
BK was proudly brought to you by Brand Connects, made possible by the support of Paulie B.
Future Signage and others. Many thanks to our special guest and you, our loyal followers. Catch you next time on the BK.